Oh, David, it is the hump day. Woo.
Wednesday already? Holy moly.
Yeah, I know.
Oof.
Excited. But David, it's kind of welcome everybody to the Rant Network. My name's Stuart Brisgell. That's David Solomon. It's uncensored dialogue hosted by us every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, with current issues, political issues, discourse, cultural blends and trends. And every episode, we sort of take down a different rabbit hole. When we talk about freedom in the world today, we often speak in slogans. We speak hashtags. We speak carefully polished talking points designed to make us feel morally satisfied without forcing us into confronting the hard truths. But history doesn't move on slogans. Freedom doesn't advance on hashtags. And people risking their lives in places like Iran and Venezuela are not asking for symbolic gestures, asking for moral clarity, consistency, and courage from the free world. Right now, Iran, courageous men and women are taking to the streets, knowing full well the cost of dissent may be imprisonment, torture, death. Venezuelan families endured hunger, power outages, collapsing currency, political repression under the regime destroyed by one of the richest nations in Latin America. These people are not confused about what they want. They want freedom, they want dignity, they want the right to choose their leader, speak their minds, worship freely, and build a future for their children. David, the question isn't whether people deserve freedom. The question is whether the United States has the resolve to stand firmly, unapologetically, and consistently on the side of liberty, on whether we have decided to confront diplomacy for its own sake and political convenience matters more than leadership. The Republican perspective is an abstract debate. It's about how power works in the real world and how authoritarian regimes do not respond to the Biden Democrat goodwill. They do not liberalize Western elite issues and statements. They pander them. David?
That was well said. But let me put the very formal presentation that Stuart just made into real words. Do we actually give a shit that people in other countries are getting hurt? It was interesting, Stuart, because if we go back to the late 2010s and the women's rights movement that was going on in New York, led by that racist Linda Sarsour, she was talking about how women are being persecuted in the United States. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib talk about that as well. But they continue to ignore the fact that women in the United States are not being persecuted like they are in so many countries like Iran. Iran has a religious police that if a woman walks around without her hijab on right, the woman could be arrested and beaten. And we've seen in other past situations where women have not only been beaten, but beaten to death. And there are, Stuart, if you don't mind, crickets coming from the rest of the world. No, those crickets. Not a UN condemnation, not a single UN resolution, not even an American statement standing up with the women of Iran. Homosexuals, LGBTQ community, equally as silent as Iranians who come out are beaten, arrested. It doesn't matter because it's against the religion. These mullahs have been in power since 1979, since the return of the Ayatollah Khomeini in the late 70s. These unbelievable extremists, Islamic terrorists, extremists, changed the face of Iran from a Western modern society. That's what it was based on. And yes, the Shah of Iran was there. And yes, he was an autocrat. I understand. But the society, people were able to practice and do what they wanted. And from 1979 till 2026, Iran has gone in another direction. Religious fanaticism has taken over the country, and freedom doesn't exist. Many have protested, Stuart, on the streets around the world, wanting that for the Ayatollahs to be taken out of power, to return to a time and a place in which Iranians were able to be free, not under the persecution, under the thumb of the Iranian regime. We've been here before, Stuart. And apparently, according to some human rights groups, because God forbid you should do anything right, 29 are dead, 1,200 arrested because they're protesting against the government. Now, you people who are in the United States and Canada and the West who bitch about how bad America and Western society is, because you lefties have done this. You Mamdani lovers have been saying all along how bad the Western world is. You don't hear of 29 deaths in a protest. You don't hear about 1,200 arrests in a protest, but you want to focus on January 6th. You want to focus on yesterday's, 5-year anniversary of the attack on Capitol Hill and attack on democracy, all that bullshit. But when you look at a country like Iran, which needs a change, you don't like it when Trump takes Maduro out, and you don't like it when you don't like it. But I'm not understanding how Israel dominates the front pages and the headlines from one news media agency to another for 2 million Palestinians. But here, women, LGBTQ, you name it, are being persecuted in the streets of Iran, in their homes. The secret police comes and arrests people. I mean, they're using pellet guns, tear gas right on the demonstrators, and you're all quiet. They've been marching for years in the streets, hoping, praying governments would stand with Persians. They don't even want to come to those Iranians, Persians, to effect change in their country. Instead, you want to focus on anti-Semitism. You want to focus on Jews. You want to focus on what happens to Palestinians because you think that gets you votes. Okay. Because you think that in your schools, this is right, that Israel is wrong, is illegitimate. But not once have you questioned the legitimacy of the Ayatollahs or the so-called president of Iran, who just executes whatever the Ayatollahs want. They fired indiscriminately on a democratic country. They meant to kill civilians in Israel, and you all stayed quiet. When Israel retaliated and the United States retaliated, you got up and said, oh no, that's off limits. Why? Why is it okay to go up and stand up for Palestinians who want to see death and destruction on a global scale by these Islamic radicalists, but you're staying quiet when Iranians are begging for the same freedoms that you have in the United States, Canada, and the rest of the Western world? Stuart, I'm amazed at the way the media has put this on this proverbial back pages, these stories, that you'll see one or two floating around, but there's no outcry. There is no outcry from anywhere. But when the president of the United States says we might go in and do something, that's when there's outcry. That's when the left wakes up and goes, oh no, thou shalt not interfere. Why not?
David, clarity of purpose. Clarity says that we stand with people, not regimes. Clarity says that sanctions remain until real change occurs. Clarity says that economic engagement is earned, not gifted. Clarity says America will not legitimize tyranny for short-term inconvenience. Freedom's a movement of hope. It's not freedom to do and hate at the expense of hating someone else. That isn't foreign policy. Where in the United States, they're trying to correlate the Jewish problem and the Muslim problem as being one and the same by persecuting one and claim that the other one is equally being persecuted. It doesn't work. Freedom doesn't follow those rules. If there's a problem in New York, if there's a problem in Iran, it is the will of the people that need to be supported by the government. But it has to be not at the expense of hating someone else.
Yeah, but here's what you're once again, beautiful flowery words. But let's talk Turkey here, okay? And I don't mean the country. You know, it's interesting that the Iranian armed forces went into hospitals to chase the protesters. They, according to Amnesty International, if you believe Amnesty International, because you did for two years, with in Gaza. So if Amnesty International is really true to its word, then the Iranian security forces did attack hospitals in Ilam and in other places to where injured protesters were getting medical attention, and you all stayed silent. But when Israel allegedly hit a hospital, which it was proven to be wrong, you all jumped about the fact that Israel killed 500 people. It's the fascinating dichotomy. It's the fascinating double standard that you all have. I guess the only time you wake up is if the enemy is a Jew and not real humanity. You are inhumane, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who are standing and only protesting for these pro-terrorists, the Hamasniks, last seen in Manchester, seen in New York, Ottawa, other places. If you're standing up, you white liberals, with this group of people, and you're saying, this is who I support, and ignore Iranians who are under real threat, you're not human. You're a racist pig, and I am labeling you the same way you like to label Stuart and me. You deserve the label. You deserve the condemnation because you're absolutely proven the point we have made here for years. You only care about one thing. You're a godforsaken cause to create chaos. You don't care for humanity. You care for chaos. You care for hate, and you care to push movements that don't make sense. You've seen the destruction by the President of the United States of DEI programs, and you freak out. You know why? Because you aren't inclusive. You are exclusive. You do not include everybody. You're protesting terrorists. You've just elected Mamdani. Is this not proof of where you've gone off the rails? Is this not proof of that you are not really true to yourself? The United Nations, once again, good old United Nations Secretary General, has stayed quiet because he's in love with the Iranian regime. Where are the condemnations from Ireland and Spain and all these countries who want to get rid of Israel from the Eurovision, from these cultural events, but Iran can go quiet? Is it because they're an economic power, Stuart? They're an oil provider? Or is it just that we prefer, radical Muslims over human beings?
Well, radical political Muslims. I want to add the word radical political Muslims.
Add whatever word you want.
I think that it draws a line between a religious Muslim and who may be radically religious.
No. I'm talking about the radicals who just want terror, spreading of Sharia law at any cost, invading countries. Those are the people I want to get rid of. And you know what, Stuart? The truth of the matter is that what did they started fighting about? Collapsed currency, ridiculous inflation. The mullahs live a great life, lap of luxury, but they're telling you that you have to live in poverty, that you have to live in absolute disgust. Because why? Because Iran has been sanctioned by the global community over what? Your nuclear program. It's fascinating, Stuart, because Obama celebrated the Arab Spring back in his early on in his regime, let's call it, in his mandate, and he celebrated that the fact that terrorists, it was the Muslim Brotherhood that took over Egypt, and Americans and the media love this idea, an Arab Spring. Well, folks, where is your spring now? It's gone. It's gone. You are absolutely clueless about what's going on in the real world. If you just want to continue following social media and these entertainers who believe that they know that they know the answers to the solutions to the world problems, please go ahead and follow these morons. Please go ahead and follow these losers. The people who right now don't have jobs, they don't have careers because they are idiots. You want to follow them and teach your children that, you know what? Humanity is only for certain people. Humanity is not for the world and the entire world. Bravo to you.
David, on that note, I'm going to bring this podcast to an end. All right, everybody, this concludes another episode of the Rant Network. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, David and I rattle it down, an unfiltered, unapologetic approach to what we hear every day in the media. If you would like to catch us, grab us online. You'll see us on our podcast. You'll see us on our website. You know, put a like, put a love, put a hate. It's okay. We can take it. David's got thick skin for me. All right, guys, on that note,